hardships that are related to the land, a floodplain, for example, or, you know, I mean, trees, or, you know, any of those types of things. There are situations in the city, you cannot, you know, predict every situation in your zoning ordinance. There has to be an ability for those extreme situations to grant some relief. And that's what you're here for, is you're here in a very, very important function to provide relief and again, to make our ordinances so that they do, you know, are upheld and that they are valid. And another thing too, just a caution, whatever you do, as long as you have reasons for what you have done and as long as you can articulate those reasons, we will very likely be able to defend all of your decisions. Again, use those templates, and you know, that doesn't mean that you won't get sued on a decision. That doesn't mean that somebody's not going to try and overturn your decision, but we will be there. We will uphold your decision as much as we can. That's going to be our job, is to try and get your decisions upheld. And again, all that we ask is just that you try and follow the templates, articulate what those reasons are, and don't be worried about putting too much information in your resolutions, because the more that we have on the record, the more likely it is that we're going to be able to get your decisions upheld. Okay? All right. Well, again, I know it's late and it's been a long evening. I am always happy to come back if you need me here. And you know, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask Mr. Evans or Ms. Lancaster or me directly. You can always do that. I'm always willing to do that. And again, thank you so much for all that you do for the city.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very useful. Moving forward, there's nobody left here for public comment, so we're going to close that out. Before I adjourn, in regards to item A on Coolidge Highway, Paul, if you could, the extra items that I guess came in late that didn't get electronically created and sent to everybody, since this is going to obviously come back, I think we'd all want to make sure we all get a chance to see that.
Most definitely. I'm not sure what happened, and you're not really asking what happened, but we'll make a point to, I've got a note here, not only can I get those to you while your recollection of what occurred tonight is fresh, but we'll also include those in the next packet, just so you have those.
That would be helpful. For Ms. Lancaster, one question is, you know, the efforts, I know there's been some efforts by the city legal to address some of the issues on that site, but some of the issues there don't really pertain to us, so I'm not sure, do we really need, should we have it? I guess is my judgment question I'm asking of you.
Have the comments?
Well, no, I'm thinking of, like in 2004, there was something of a legal proceeding where they were going to move on the previous owner who's passed on. But it's not something I think that's useful for us.
Right. I offered that because the citizen was here.
Right.
But that's, and you heard a lot of water under the bridge. Apparently, some of it was a surprise to us. We had no idea he was doing some of those things. And we should have had some enforcement based on the 1990 or 1975. But it's really not relevant. It's just if you're interested, it's not something I would bring up again if you want us to check on that Wolkoff just to see what the history was. But she's a new petitioner, and she's asking, a new owner, and she's asking you to let her expand that use. And that's a difficult enough question. And hopefully, I'm not quite sure she understood what was necessary in terms of how to present. So we'll be happy to tell her what the law is, and
we appreciate
you'll mention the parts of the 75 thing that are no longer. I know there's at least one item there that no longer is relevant.
Right.
And there'd be no sense in us including that again if we had.
Well, I do think I'm not a voting member, but I was having a hard time understanding what exactly it was she wanted specifically, and I thought it might be helpful for us to work with her to see what it is she wants. It was just difficult.
Right, I thought so too. I think we all thought so. It was just, we want to help her be successful, but I couldn't write her. We can't write her application for her. I know Mr. Bartnick indicated he had some interest in the legal history. I wouldn't mind seeing it for reading, but if it's something that doesn't take a lot of time, I know you're busy,
We can
great.
check, we have paralegals that probably remember more about some of these
Okay.
files than we do.
I guess the answer is sure, send it along.
We'll
but-
see what we can find. We'll see if we can get a history for you.
I had one thing too, is regardless of what may have been allowed on that land in the past, isn't it kind of like a residential area that's non-conforming? And you can go ahead and approve maybe the replacement, but normally if it falls in, it gets torn down, it can't be replaced unless
Right, if it gets hit by a tornado and wipes
It's
out
gone.
the greenhouse,
Right.
it's gone, unless you automatically replace it, allow it to be replaced. It's
you
not
gotta follow
supposed to
what
be.
the ordinance says, and if it's wiped out
Yeah.
by a tornado taken to the ground,
Well,
the law, it comes in for a building permit, and
okay,
can't.
wouldn't land be basically the same thing? That is,
Well,
if
and
that were a
that's-
farm before,
That's something that
as it's not
perhaps,
used as a farm, it loses its right to,
yeah, we're going to look into that.
Okay.
You happened to mention, made a point during the conversations that if she really wanted to do this business, she should go for a use variance, which is a whole different procedure. But at the same time, that's not what we want. The idea behind a non-conforming use is you want to get rid of it. And you
no,
have to.
I thought she got to go for a rezoning request, not a use
You
variance.
said rezoning, yeah.
Rezoning, because
I remember, yeah.
Yes, I think that's what you said.
I think she wants a change that's going to be permanent. And I think it would be permanent because the land is, the way the land is. Well, let the council and the planning commission worry about whether it should be or not.
Yes, because they'll wrap the gavel.
Well, Paul's really good at helping people out now.
We haven't finished yet.
Do you let the public know when they come in that they should have an attorney?
We can advise her that she can.
This is an option for her, you don't
There's
recommend
a
or
line,
suggest that they
there's a
should.
line there between helping the applicant and either giving legal advice that's not impartial or
Yeah.
impartial.
That's,
So it just
Well,
seems to me that at some point in time, you should have a sign that says we can't give legal advice, or, sort of like when you go to the courthouse. I mean,
Yeah,
has that ever been considered?
We can
And
give
when do you
legal
decide
advice
when to
about
tell
the
them to
city's
have a
position.
lawyer or not? Pardon?
We can give legal advice about the city's position.
About the city's position?
Yeah, right. If she doesn't, I mean, we can certainly encourage her to talk to an attorney about what, I mean, let's face it, how many petitioners that don't have attorneys, unless they're engineers or folks like you with prior experience, we get a lot of petitioners that don't have a clue what they're asking for. And that's where you have to pry it out of them. And you know enough, when you recognize a hardship and you're very good about, in our normal course of hearing a petitioner say something, that you can then use that to question them, to develop a hardship if it looks like there is one. But we still have that burden of getting over what is her hardship here. And that's what we have to tell her. You know, she just can't say, I want my business to be great. That's not the kind of hardship we can recognize. So we will work with her to.
Can you give an example of what the hardship with that land was?
Well, it's a little bit different with non-conforming uses. I do know she's on a floodplain, and part of the problem, at least with my discussions with Paul, is that I don't know what kind of residential development you could put in there. I don't think any of us have a problem with continuing the non-conforming use. And she might be a very good candidate to put in there, but it's just how far do you want to go? Because every time you give her an expansion, you're perpetuating that non-conforming use, which doesn't fit within our zoning code. So there's possibility that she might have something, but it's a matter of what is it exactly that she wants. Some things you might say are hardships. If she asks for a greenhouse that was twice its size, you have to decide, is that a substantial, significant thing that you want to give her, because that's going to perpetuate that non-conforming use into the future, or that structure into the future. So it's just a matter of seeing exactly what it is she's talking about doing.
I want to say I really appreciated, I was trying to get out of her as to what the hardship was, which I thought was just a greenhouse, and then you came in and explained all the other things that are related to that, which you kind of cut the chase. She was going on on an emotional end, and we want to know what is your variance? What do you need, and why? What is your hardship? And that was what I was really trying to get at. But that was great that you popped in, and then it opened up Pandora's box a lot more than just the just the shed that she wanted, which was great. I appreciated that.
Are there any other comments before we close out the meeting?
I would like to agree with Lori that Mr. Neal, you did a great job as being our chair tonight.
I'm sorry. Oh, thanks.
You did a good job.
Sorry, I stepped over you a couple times, Paul.
Honestly, this is a tough meeting to chair. I mean, this is an emotional issue with a lot of people, and the subject matter was far more complex than
Thanks.
many
So-
variance
so
requests we've
obvious
handled.
To me, that it's like you've got to present the information. I'm like, oh, crap. You know?
We work together as a team. We'll keep each other on
He
schedule.
did this one so well, when we discuss it again, we'll let him share it again.
Yeah, and I just want to make known that I thank you both for filling in on short notice for me, so I could fill in for Dave and then for Glenn. But when this comes back next month, we're going to need you here. And so all 9 of us really should be here. And we'll hopefully be able to close this issue out next month. I have nothing else, and if not, thank you all for coming, and I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you. It's adjourned.